I've often been asked, how do you find pain with a particular customer? I think the best way to really do this is to give you a little bit of a story for those packaging resellers and people out there when it comes to learning the hard way how to find pain and then capitalize it. Let me explain. A couple years ago, well, actually about 15 years ago, I was dealing with here in Cleveland, the Hoover Company. Now, Hoover, the vacuum cleaner company, of course, was the 900-pound gorilla. Everybody tried to sell them. Everybody from a packaging reseller to actual manufacturers, on and on. The problem is that getting in the door at the Hoover Company was brutal. If you ever got an opportunity, good luck, and I hope you had a hook, because otherwise they were such a refined machine when it came to their purchasing department. Getting beyond the purchasing guy, or quote unquote what we thought was the decision maker, was brutal. I spent my time going back and forth trying to get in the door the old-fashioned way, coming in and talking with the receptionist, coming in and trying to hammer up a little bit, bring in donuts, bring in bagels, see if she could give me some information. Again, you could find out who these buyers were, but getting them to answer a call, answer an email, run into them, it was brutal. Part of the issue was they were very busy, of course, but frankly, as a packaging reseller, oftentimes they're already dealing with a manufacturer. This is a problem that we're going to have over and over again. As packaging resellers, we need to be able to sell them something they cannot get easily from somebody else. If it's a commodity item like corrugated boxes or bubble wrap or banding or whatever it is, forget it. They can go direct to any major mill, any major company, and lean on them to get the best pricing and get whatever they needed. Now, that's why when I went in the first time and I finally got in with their quote-unquote packaging buyer, this particular guy, his name is Wade Huthmacher. Wade was a 40-year vet at that time, long since retired, but the point is he ate me up and spit me out. I was young, I was wet between the ears or behind the ears or whatever the saying is, and Wade hit me up back and forth as far as who are my mills, why would he buy from me, he doesn't need a guy like me, his pricing is tied to the global market on paper when it comes to corrugated and the global market on resin and film. He ate me up and spit me out. Now, I left there thinking to myself, other people are selling these guys, how come I can't sell them? This is where the light bulb went off about finding pain. Two things. Number one, guys like Wade Huthmacher, the buyers, aren't necessarily going to tell you their pain point. They're just not. They don't have time. Unless their hair's on fire or you know them personally, they're not going to give you any information. We have to find people that aren't necessarily the buyer, aren't necessarily the gatekeeper. Get to somebody there that we could have a human conversation with without being pushed out the door, which is basically what Wade did to me. Now, back in the day, the Hoover Company had a packaging engineer, actually a couple of them, but one main guy's name was Jack Rice. Really good guy. Jack cut his teeth over the years working on the line at Hoover, doing some engineering work at Hoover, was an electrician. He was this jack of all trades packaging engineer that actually everybody went to when they needed something fixed or repaired or a design change or anything. Most people didn't take the time to learn about Jack or to learn how to talk with him or how to meet with him. And ironically, at that time, this is 20 years ago or so, nobody really contacted him. So when I reached out to him and asked if I could buy him lunch or have coffee or whatever, sure, come on in. And again, he didn't know me from Adam, but he was more than willing to share with me a couple different things. Now, it didn't happen over time. It didn't happen immediately. The relationship built over time. This is a key thing, packaging resellers, and we all know the importance of building relationships. With the right relationship and over time with Jack, I made sure I came down to see him on a regular basis. Ironically, it was once a week. He was about an hour from my office. I would go in mostly every Thursday, and we would just talk about what's going on, what kind of issues. Finally, a couple of months in, it became evident that I was there to stay. This wasn't somebody looking to get rich. This wasn't somebody looking to just fill in the time. Jack understood that I was willing to do anything, really, to get in the door with Hoover. I knew that eventually that could grow a business. Now, this isn't something that, like I said, it's going to take time. Jack had told me about an issue they were having with their shiny red, shiny green, shiny black. They're really high gloss colors of vacuum cleaners. Now, here's where the problem was. The general vacuum cleaner wasn't the issue. They put a dust cover or a very thin plastic bag over the cleaner. The problem is that thin plastic bag created some sort of a chemical reaction and left marks on the high gloss plastic. Now, 20 years ago, these cleaners were going for almost $500, so I'm sure in today's dollars, that'd be even more. That's a big issue when you're talking about people returning their vacuum cleaner. People are saying, look, I ordered this, it's got marks on it, I like the red color, but it's got all these kind of scratches on there. There was a scratching that was happening. Hoover was in the process of trying to come up with some way. They were doing a lot of work with these major retailers. The retailers were rejecting a lot of their cleaners. That's big money. Now, Hoover was trying as best they could to figure out what was causing the scratching. In order to solve it, they came up with a solution to wrap foam, like a very thin layer of foam, around the head or the front of the cleaner, and then put the plastic bag around there. So they went from a 2 or 3 cent plastic bag to wrapping it with about 25 cents of foam to solve this problem. That was the pain point. After getting to know Jack at the Hoover Company and then finding out and asking the questions when he had said, here's an issue. If you can solve this, this may be a way in. Most importantly, Jack had told me that when they wrapped this foam with the plastic bag cover over, that cost went from a couple of pennies to an additional 20, 25 cents. The light bulb went off for me and I thought, heck, if I can solve this and be able to be cheaper than this 20 cents, there's margin in there for me, but there's also great cost savings for the Hoover Company. Solving a pain point or finding the pain is one thing, then we've got to solve it. That's why we have to, in between, ask questions. Ask questions such as, how much is this costing you? Have you had this problem for a long time? Is this with just one part number or many? Hoover laid this all out for me that the majority of their business were all these high gloss colors. So they had a major problem and that was costing them a ton of money. So fast forward from there, I went through a lot of trial and error. I wish I could tell you this was a quick solution, but we had to find a company or had to find a solution first of all. Then I had to be able to get samples and test. The other problem is a lot of companies don't want to do this unless you can work with them and entice them that this is a big opportunity. Over time with this, with Hoover, I was able to find a factory that could run a film that was non-abrasive. It's a very unique, different type of product. We had to do a lot of testing, but once we did the testing and back and forth, we found out that in fact it did work. There's a lot more to this story, but what I'm getting at is a case study and how you find pain, then how do you solve it, and then how do you close that deal. So long story short, you've got to be able to find the pain, then find factories that can do this. There's a lot more to this, but that's the best way to explain getting beyond the commodity crap or commodity trap and selling high margin, high ticket items to grow your business further. I hope this is helpful. Let us know how we can help. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to see more, here's another video that you can check out, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.